I mean, we're just a prop for the shotties, really.
September 11th, 2003. We're on Crab Island. We've been here before, more than once, but recently the events on Crab Island have been most significant historically. I have to tell you that I had mixed feelings when I got out of bed this morning, realizing the impact that September 11th is having not only on the people from Clinton County and this portion of the Lake Champlain region, but all over our nation and literally all over the world. And so, yes, I did take a moment of silence starting just before 9 o'clock this morning to remember what happened on September 11th, 2001. But we're here for a different reason today, to dedicate and commemorate things that happened way back in September of 1814. My friend John Kruger is here. How are you, John?
Happy to be here.
Delighted.
The first time I've ever set foot actually on Crab Island.
Is it really?
Yeah, Roger Harwood gave me a hard time about it, but I'm here.
I'm surprised he didn't make you swim the last 200 yards. But anyway, we met John when we did a program a short time back from the Clinton County Historical Association and the museum on Court Street in Plattsburgh. We're delighted that you did make it here today.
Yeah, I can't think of a better place to be on September 11th.
You had heard so much about this flagpole.
And now I see it actually upright. We've got a couple of pieces of the original flagpole at the museum, but ours is down in the basement, whereas here it's a much more striking presentation.
I should mention the last time we met you, we were doing a story on the plaques that came from the monument here on Crab Island, which are on display in your museum. Have quite a few people come to see it?
Yes, they have. And the actual monument is right down that path.
And we've taken
Except Calvin's shooting the wrong direction to go with my pointing, but that's okay.
We've taken that winding road down there, and we hope to be there because there are actually a couple of ceremonies planned for the island here today. Veterans will be here later on, and there'll be a ceremony there. And of course, then we'll have a brief ceremony dedicating this flagpole. And a lot happened on this island all those years ago, and quite a bit will be happening as part of the commemoration this year in 2003. You didn't jump too high, but you did twitch. We have cannon and gunfire, which will be going off throughout the course of the day. We have a bateau, le bateau, probably the rooster right off the island.
I think it is the rooster. And they've been firing their swivel gun repeatedly throughout the morning.
And we have a cannon here. We have people in period costume. And what, to you, historically, what does this whole thing signify?
Well, September of 1814 was the last time the United States was invaded down this traditional invasion corridor. And that September, professional American soldiers, militiamen from northern New York and militiamen from Vermont united, and along with a Navy commanded by a young man from Delaware, turned back a vastly superior British force. Riding over in the boat this morning, somebody commented to me, and I think quite correctly, that if the Americans hadn't won that battle, at least the Champlain Valley and maybe a lot more of the real estate to the south would have been British rather than American. And we'd have to have fought another war to regain it.
These boundaries would have been significantly different. And of course, we here now realize as years go by how truly significant that battle was. And as Calvin and I discussed also on the way over here, unfortunately, the significance of September 11th here is in large measure overshadowed by those horrendous events of September 11th, 2001. But the big anniversary here is coming up on September 11th, 2014. And I expect the three of us will be standing out here on Crab Island then. I have plans to do it no matter how far Calvin has to push me in that floating wheelchair. I'll help you, Calvin. John, thanks so much for being with us and sharing this momentous occasion. My pleasure, anytime. Thanks a lot. Now that was a good bang. So what are we going to... Calvin will be lucky if he doesn't have a crick in his neck before we're through here today, but At the base of this flagpole, it is a most impressive sight, and I have to tell you, as we approach Crab Island in the boat today, even my old and ancient eyes could get a look at that flagpole sticking way up above the trees. I just wish that the flag could be about 16 times bigger than it is. John Rock tells me that there is a certain limit to the size of flag you can put on this flagpole, so maybe that determines it. Who are you guys?
Rob Bruno.
And?
Rusty Provost.
Rusty, we're glad to be here today. Nice costumes. I
Thank
love
you.
it. So you got the mustaches and the beard. You got the whole routine. Feels normal, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
You guys had so much to do with getting this flagpole up. This is a pretty happy day for everybody, isn't it?
Sure is.
Yeah. So what are you guys going to do? You're going to actually climb the pole.
Yeah, we're going to be up in the crow's nest and we're going to fire from up there.
Are you?
Yeah.
That's going to be after the ceremony?
During the ceremonies.
Yeah.
You're going to just kind of fire and...
Well, they'll have a sequence of events as they're raising and lowering the flag, and then they'll play the taps, and before they play the taps, I think is when they've got
the
us set
whole
up there.
thing planned.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Did you ever dream it would turn out this way?
No, I didn't quite plan it.
No.
I didn't think I'd be in this.
Well, yeah, you've been up the pole before though, right?
I haven't been up the pole yet. Rusty's been up the pole.
How far did you go up, Russ?
Well, I went up standing on the pieces that are sticking out.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
He was
Take
up there
a
quite a
rope
ways.
down. That was Monday night.
I heard you went up there without incident. Nothing broke or came
Yeah,
loose.
you were reaching the third collar up from the crow's nest. So
Yeah.
He was above the treetops.
Yeah.
That's about as far as I would want to go.
It's a long ways up.
Just about a foot or two above my head is about as far as I want to go. You've climbed lots of poles though,
Yes. Yeah.
so that's not a new thing, is it?
No.
Is it any?
Well,
What's
it's a
different?
New climbing technique, though,
The
right?
steel is different.
It's hard to get spikes in that
Yeah,
steel,
yeah,
isn't
yeah.
it?
You had to shimmy up the pole.
Really?
Yeah.
I missed it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll get a chance to catch that on tape this morning. It's an awful lot of fun to be here. We wish you guys luck, and thanks so much for everything you've done through the whole process. You guys and John and everybody else have turned this into a real spectacle, and it should be. Don't you agree with
yeah.
that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a good day in the North Country.
Yes, it
That's
is.
right.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
There's no one on Crab Island who isn't proud to be here today, but perhaps the proudest person of all is standing next to me, John Rock. What are your feelings right now?
Just words can't describe them, Gordy. I'm just so proud of everybody that's worked out here and helped complete this job with the flagpole and everything else. And it's such an honor to honor the vets who have laid here for over 189 years without being recognized. It's just a proud day in the North Country history, and it's a proud day for everyone that's worked on this, and myself especially.
I really felt good. My heart and my soul swelled as we approached the island this morning, and there was just enough breeze to keep that flag right straight out. And the minute we came ashore, you called my attention to a plaque that you've erected here, a temporary plaque. Tell me why that's so significant for you.
Yes, the plaque, Gordy, is the names of everyone that's buried on the island, the British and the dead, as close to the documentation that we have. There's probably one or two that's missing, but as close to the accurate account as we have. And it's the first time their names have ever been displayed in public in 189 years since they've been killed and laid to rest here on the island.
How did you get this made?
The city of Plattsburgh, we have to thank Jack Stewart and Mayor Dan Stewart. They stepped forward and they told us just to go have it made up, and the city paid for everything. So,
And how do you expect to make it permanent at some point?
over the winter, we're going to get a block of granite and get it erected. But we also are working on the footstones, possibly a temporary walkway around the monument in that area over there with all their names that the federal government is liable to put down in their proper markings. So
In the last few years, we've come a long ways over here, and I say we because I like to add myself to the collection, although I've done nothing but help to chronicle it for history on tape and so on. You've put a lot of blood and sweat into this thing, and I know how pleased you are to stand here today ready to dedicate this flagpole, because I watched the sweat that went into putting that thing upright. I know there was never a moment of fear for you that it was going to go in there, but for the rest of us, we were standing back in the woods waiting in case something happened. But we were so thrilled that moment, and to be here and to capture that exclusively on Hometown Cable was a real neat treat for me and Calvin.
Yes, and I appreciate all the attention that you've given us and everything else, Gordy. And it was just a day of honor, and it was a day of such joy and joyous celebration with everything. And everyone in the North Country should be proud and everything else. And this sends the message out to every veteran that we will not forget the vets. The one thing that people forget is veterans are America's freedom. Without them, we would not be free. And we should never forget them, dead or alive.
I want you to know, for those people who are viewing this program, that you're not seeing the end of a process here in Crab Island. You're just seeing the very beginning. This place is going to be a place of honor for a long time to come. For example, this flagpole is not as exactly as it's going to be. You're going to pour cement around it and
yes, we have
a lot more work.
Yes, we have a lot more work to do around here at Gordy, and all the underbrush is going to be cut out here, and the poison ivy is going to be sprayed and killed off in the island. And the whole island is going to be put back to a military cemetery so that people can come and pay the proper respects to the heroes that are laying on this island.
And at some point in time, that grave will be found and will be marked and will be an even more sacred place than it is to you and me here today.
Yes, and hopefully in the spring or possibly this fall, we are going to have archaeologists on the island that we are going to locate the graves and have proper markings on them. And when this is all said and done, it will be a proper military cemetery and a place, like I said, to show our respect to the heroes that are lying out here.
I just want to give our viewers a brief preview of what's going to happen here during this dedication ceremony.
Well, during the dedication ceremony, we're going to line up all the reenactors that we have in groups, and we're going to raise the flag. We have a British flag, a MII-POW flag, and an 1812 American flag. We're going to fly the flag that these guys fought for and died here for them. So it's going to be a special tribute and honor.
And because this is the Battle of Plattsburgh Day, September 11th, 2003, there'll also be a ceremony at the monument on the other end of the side.
Yes, Line Mountain, the Line Mountain post is up there, and they are going to be firing a salute very shortly. In fact, right after the ferry boat gets here, to up to the monument, which the monument was built to honor the troops and we do believe the graves are somewhere behind the monument. So
it'll be all very interesting, and we have all promised. As a matter of fact, we've pledged, Roger and Calvin and myself, to be back here on September 11th, 2014, John. Can we make it?
Yes, we will. And by then, Gordy, I'm sure that we will have this island in a proper perspective, in a respect that it deserves, and the proper foliage gone and everything else out here. And it's been a long time coming, and it is finally going to start. So my hat's off to all the state officials who have finally answered the call.
It takes a long time to get people to stand in a line sometimes, doesn't
yes,
it?
It
just
does.
Want to straggle all over the place, but you've managed to get a lot of people thinking about Crab Island, and I'm very proud of you for that and proud of your friendship. And I want to add my personal thanks, not for the last time, but for one of the first times, for all the hard work you've done. I know what it means to you, John.
Well, you're welcome, Gordy, and I appreciate that. But all the guys that have worked on this, every volunteer never balked. They stepped forward whenever they were asked, and the guys from NYSEG, our linemen, in fact, we've got two of them here today that are going to be shooting a salute.
We just talked to them
from up on the crow's nest. So it's going to be a real tribute and honor, and a lot of people don't know, but they shot off the mast of the ship. So we've got just about every workable aspect that covered here that's going to happen during the battle, and we're going to try to reenact it here today.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, Gordy.
All right, we're talking with Addie Shields. Actually, I'm going to kneel down next to her because that's what she deserves.
Well, I walked all over here. It's a wonderful place.
I love it.
Absolutely.
And we rode over together on the pontoon boat looking at that flagpole. Doesn't it stand majestically?
And it's the company is these tall elms that are majestic, the oaks and so forth. It's just a beautiful place. And to have this flagpole with the flag, our American flag, waving on the south end of this island, it is just absolutely wonderful.
And you pointed out to us Cumberland Head, how it forms that bay.
Oh, yes.
And it's easy for you, and you inspire me to close my eyes and remember what it must have been like when when the sun came up on that morning on September 11th.
Oh, I know. And at that time, they are saying that the timber was all cut off, and they saw the masts coming around that island. They saw the masts before the ships came around. You know, it is that Cumberland Bay, that Cumberland Head creates that bay, and it's just absolutely wonderful. But all of this, and then the wind was blowing, and the wind, and you know, so these men were dying, and brought them over here. Please, you know, they didn't say, what are we going to do with these poor people? They were hurting, they were cut and bruised and whacked up, you know, and so they brought them over here. But it is just great that the government is going to get into it, and to hear John Rock talk, he has the enthusiasm, and to think of all these people that were linemen that knew how to put that up. Isn't that wonderful?
Calvin and I had the privilege of being here that day to capture all of that on tape exclusively. There were
Wonderful.
no other media here at the time.
Oh, wonderful.
And we were pleased to be here to listen to the guys sweat and grunt and groan back there because they raised that pole by hand.
You know, we all got to come over here afterwards, and this is all over. Now we got to rake this. Notice all this trash
Yes.
on the ground. We got to rake this. We all got to come over here, and it's a great place to come, and we'll all bring a rake and so forth, and everybody get busy, and then have a big bonfire and burn up all this trash.
And we believe the historical things belong to the people, and that's why it's such a good idea, because this effort has been accomplished today strictly because of volunteerism.
Oh, absolutely, and it's our treasure. We have a lot of treasures in the North Country. We are absolutely unspoiled. We're a beautiful area, and this is a part of the beauty. And just think of the people that could come here. Just think of the park that this could be, and just listen to it. Now, people are talking right now, but it's so quiet. Absolutely so quiet.
And it will be a park.
Absolutely.
It was a national park at one time and
And
will be preserved, and it's just, it's a
underst-
tragedy that it hasn't been preserved all these years,
Right.
but you have to start somewhere, and
And
this
I
is
understand
where
that
we're
Vondry is very impressed with this, and he is, and apparently they're going to go to Congress. And you notice that enthusiasm of John Rock. He will go to Congress.
got it. He's got the passion.
Absolutely has. That's the word, the passion.
He's the modern
Absolutely.
Daniel Boone. He's willing to break
But isn't
new
this-
trails.
Isn't this wonderful?
But there are many people who've done that, and yes, it's proper to thank everyone who's had a
I thought
hand
too
in it.
I thought too of now you see that Roger Harwood loaded that riding lawnmower, loaded it in that, brought it over here, and actually in all the ferries, and with gasoline at $1.75, I've wondered if we hadn't all. He's probably got $300 in gasoline coming over here.
It's
with all-
amazing, isn't it?
It's absolutely wonderful.
It's an awful
But when
lot
you
of
see-
fun.
When you see these trees there, this is unspoiled. This is virgin territory, and it's in our 155. And then John Rock went to have all these names printed. He went to Dan Stewart, and you know we're lucky. Dan Stewart is able to. Dan Stewart is. You know, there's something about him. He's versatile. He can swing any way. He's always there, irrespective. And he gave John Rock the go-ahead to print those names, and that's the first time they've ever been printed on anything like that. It's just absolutely wonderful.
But it takes a combined effort, and John is the impetus, and you're absolutely right. He has the passion
Oh,
that
absolutely.
it takes to get the job done, and it's not just for personal gain. It's
You know-
because he wants those people honored
And
who
he-
are buried on this island.
And he goes to his life is in it. He goes to the nth degree. He will come in the office, and he is so effervescent. He's so full of enthusiasm and absolute happiness, you know. And he displays all these pictures, and I saw the picture. In fact, I wanted to walk and see the tree that was girded. You know, apparently they girded a tree in order to get that up, and nobody but linemen. You think of all the poles that the NYSEG linemen put up. You follow, utility people. And then the other day I walked in, and there was a note underneath the door. Be at the Peru dock at such and such a time with a telephone number.
Isn't that
I mean,
wonderful?
he's quite a,
Well,
know,
you're
he-
here, and it's great. And yes, we got pictures of that tree with the cable actually ground right into the bottom of the tree.
absolutely.
There were some stresses at work here that I can't even begin to tell you. And to watch these
that's
professionals who had combined experience of hundreds of years. I should mention before we go any farther, for people who might be watching this show for the first time, shame on you. We've been doing it for forever, but Addie Shields is a Clinton County historian. She loves the history of this area and loves to share her knowledge with anybody who stops in at the office. And I thank you for your dedication to
Well, thank
preserving
you.
the history.
You know, one of the things I had to speak to the Lions Club yesterday and last night, and one of the things when Wool come back, you might not be interested in this, but when Wool come back here in 1840, he wasn't very happy about the people in Beekmantown because as our people fell in with Wool, the militia, at the stone walls there at Culver Hill, All right. When Wellington was killed and the British reconnoitered and marched on in their column, they all went back home. And Wool, as a military man, could not understand that. Thank you much. Wool, as a military man, could not understand that, and he said they were cowards. But I want you to think about something. These people all were in Lindsay Woolsey, you know? They'd only been here, they were the sons of American Revolutionary people. They'd only been here about 10 years or so. They had built a house, maybe they had a few cows, and they had planted a little, they had some buckwheat, and so they wanted to go home and find out how many of the marauding British had, you know, you've got to feed an army, and you kill a cow here, it makes good eating, and they wanted to know whether the cow was still there, whether the pig was still there, you follow?
Oh,
and
sure.
whether they had waded through the buckwheat, because the buckwheat, you know, that was almost ready to harvest was what they were going to take to the mill and grind, and that was going to be their cereal, because everybody had pancakes at that time.
Oh,
so
sure.
you've got to think about what a wonderful group of people they were.
Absolutely.
You know? They weren't all the cowards, because, and incidentally, one of them, that Stephen Mix that lived over on the other side of the cemetery where Corvath lives, he had been a part of Benedict Arnold's group that went north into the Chaudière River and up to Quebec City with Arnold, and came back and with Robert Morris bought that land, that big stretch of land that belongs to Bubbins, and his James, he had died in 1803, and his James Mix, you know, everybody, look, they wanted to know how much they lost with the British marching through. That's why they went home. They were worried.
Isn't that amazing? We thank you for that little piece of history, and now we're going to take a walk in a few moments to see what's going to happen at the monument. Okay? What a fantastic day it is weather-wise and otherwise. It's a beautiful day, September 11th, 2003. We've moved to the north end of the island to the monument. We're so delighted to see that things are changing for the better, and we're finally honoring in an official way those people who lost their lives on September 11th, 1814. Donald Pickles Toloski, how are you, my friend?
Fine, thank you.
That's great to have you here today. It's a pretty neat place to be on September 11th, isn't it?
It is, it's good.
What are you guys planning to do today?
Well, we're just going to give them a rifle salute. It'll, you know, we'll fire and present arms, and that's about it.
Well, it's nice to be here in an official way and to have people in uniform. And I'm sure those people who were buried not too far from where we're standing right now would appreciate the effort on September 11th, 2003. Before we started, you were mentioning an old record that you have that was cut way back when
1941.
And what's it? Who did it, and what's it about?
It was made by J.R. Lenny, who was head of Republic Steel at that time. And in the mines, it had what we call an air blast. It was in the shaft, and it damaged, it caved the shaft in and so forth, and a man by the name of Irving Collins was killed, and Shag Lemaire and another man by the name of Gilpin was injured in that. Yeah.
And he made a recording explaining what happened,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And you've preserved it somehow all these years. You found it in a house that you bought, or?
Yes.
Wow. But you haven't heard it in a while, have you?
No, I haven't.
So what we're going to try to do is to preserve this record. Maybe we can play parts of it on Hometown Cable on one of our programs. We should say that you're what I would call an institution or an icon in the Lion Mountain area. This whole mining story and the story of baseball in Lion Mountain has put that community on the map. It's a good place to live and be from, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And you've lived there
I've lived there all my life.
all of your life, and
29 years.
Yeah, 29 years. I love it, and we never tell a lie. Pickles, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
Right. We had another fellow passenger on the pontoon boat when Roger brought us over here, and it was our good friend Angela Forrence. And I know you're here for a very good reason. It is a special day, isn't it?
I'm very thankful to be here, and thank you for asking me, Gordy.
Isn't it wonderful that your flag is going to be on that pole?
Oh, I didn't even have to work too hard to get it, but they're going to raise the American flag and the POWMIA flag, as well as an historical flag.
And isn't it appropriate that that flag should be on that flagpole?
I think so. You know, we had 20,000 POWs in the Revolutionary War, and there are 155 that are technically missing in action right here. Maybe between 151 and 155.
And not very far from where we're standing now. And to see all of this developing on September 11, 2003, it pleases me a
It
great
does.
deal.
And I know you've done a great deal, and Roger Harwood has done so much.
Isn't he a terrific guy, and John Rock for
and
getting
John
that
Rock,
pole up there
yes.
and just getting everybody inspired and
Yeah,
all
we-
worked up over it.
We couldn't be recorded and documented if it wasn't for you.
Well, you know,
And Calvin.
we're delighted to be here. And I've said before in this program, and I'll say it again, it pleases us who have been lucky enough to be here when they put the flagpole up, and we
Were
were the
you
only
actually?
we were the
Oh.
only media here, and we covered the entire event, both here and over there. And as we're recording this on
hours?
September 11th, it took several hours to get it straightened up
Mm-hmm.
because they did it all by hand.
Amazing.
And fortunately, that very program, which we recorded several weeks ago, is going to be aired on this Battle of Plattsburgh weekend 9 times starting tomorrow.
Oh, that's wonderful.
10, 3:30, and 9 o'clock Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Oh,
And
I'll
so
watch
people
it Sunday.
people will be able to see it more than once, and it's just fun to be a part of it all.
We're so fortunate to have such energized, passionate citizens to accomplish all of this.
You and I have stood in some really interesting places for some really interesting events down through the years. And it's been a pleasure to live here in the North Country because the people are wonderful.
They are wonderful, and you
And-
have people from all over, Southerners like
Yeah,
me.
Well, we have a melting pot. I
We
mean,
do.
you know, you and I and Roger and the whole crew, all part of that liaison committee on the base for so many
Mm-hmm.
years, and how sad we were to see the base closed, but how many lifelong friends we've made.
That's right. And events like this in our Riverwalk captures
Riverwalk,
the
too,
memory.
wonderful.
It is a wonderful
I find
thing.
myself explaining and promoting the Riverwalk
Thank
to
you
people
kindly.
almost every day.
Do you know?
Somebody
we
said
would
we like to
love-
go to the hospital and feed the ducks. I said, let me tell you another place. where
Thank you
can feed
kindly.
the ducks.
Thank you. It is a wonderful place. Yeah.
It's fun to
And-
go and see our own bricks and to look at the messages
Yeah.
that other people put there.
And couldn't it be great if we could extend the Riverwalk to here and have a historical thing around? But I guess you would have a problem with the insurance. But someday,
I don't
maybe
know.
we could extend the
You know, we were
Riverwalk.
talking with John this morning, and they would love to see some kind of a stone or brick walkway with the names of all
Right,
the soldiers
of
who
these
were buried here,
151.
yeah.
Right.
That would be nice all by itself.
That would be.
Angela, thanks so much
thank
for talking
you.
with us, for being here,
Thank
and
you
for
so
all
much.
you do for the cause.
Well, and thank you for your kind words.
We're glad to do it.
Okay, thank you.
And as I look at my watch, it's 12 minutes before 12. On September 11th, 2003, Color Guard is exiting the enclosure for the monument on Crab Island. In case you just turned on the program, we are recording this on September 11th, 2003 for a variety of reasons. First of all, it's a historic day, and we hope that today is an historic moment, because we hope to accomplish several things, actually. First of all, we need to get greater recognition of the importance of the Battle of Plattsburgh, not throughout the North Country, because most of us are well aware of that significant event, but across the nation. There are so many things that will be predicated upon people in Washington and elsewhere having knowledge of what we're doing. Thanks. Rick, at this time, Angela Bryant Torrance will place a wreath at the foot of the monument. One, change, hut, prepare to fire. Unlock.
Hey! Ha! Order! Huh.
True to their word, our trusty climbers have ascended the flagpole on Crab Island and are situated, albeit precariously, at what I would call the crow's nest. They look like they've climbed before. They look very confident up there as they look down on the rest of us poor folks. They will be firing volleys from up there, hopefully with not with live ammunition. There's quite a nice little crowd of people here. I noticed several of the legislators, along with Administrator Bill Bingle, who've arrived and attended that very brief ceremony over at the monument. A ferry is here containing a number of people who didn't feel as though they wanted to or were incapable of climbing up the rocks on the island. And there is a significant number, 8 or 10 reenactors who are in period costumes. A number of very loud guns, including a cannon, have been amassed.
Okay, I thought they were ready to begin, but maybe not. I think the general public wasn't invited to this portion right here. All I saw in the paper was be on the boat. And there were quite a few people, and it must have been a couple hundred.
Yeah, I was very impressed. And of course, they're invited to watch Hometown Cable in any venue on any cable system in northern New York where it's aired, to watch our program, because we're pretty proud of being able to make this kind of presentation for your edification. They got a PA system, and they're hoping that the people on the Sheriff's Patrol boats and those people who are in the ferry about 300 yards off the island will be able to hear whatever transpires here today.
And they're expecting the Lion Mountain Color Guard to be here, because they were supposed to be right next to this pine tree here. And John's
voice could be heard for at least 2 or 3 miles.
I think they're going to try to sink that bateau.
Oh, you think so?
I think that's the plan.
That's got a little bow cannon on it, but believe me, its size belies its power. And if you're standing next to it and they touch it off, you hear it. Absolutely spectacular weather, something I've mentioned before, but I want the weather gods to know that we're pleased that each time we come out here, things are perfect.
Speaking of the weather gods.
Yeah, there's Tom Messner.
He's taking all the credit. That's why he showed up. If it was raining, he wouldn't be here.
Oh, is that it? The various media, of course, here to chronicle this event today. And I didn't mean to lord it over the folks who didn't make it when they raised the flagpole, but most people were not aware of it,
including us.
And I have to tell you that we were here by the sheer grace of God and 100%, you know what kind of luck, to be able to record the raising of that flagpole. That was really fun, wasn't it, Cal?
Yeah, and it was special because we ended up being the only media covering it, and this is kind of special here today too. We've had, since we were there to witness the relifting of the anchor, the re-retrieval of the anchor several years ago, and the launching of the bateau. We've had some special moments surrounding the Battle of Plattsburgh, I think.
Each year since you and I started to do this, we've tried to make the program a little bit different and a little bit special to record significant events that happened during the commemoration of the Battle of Plattsburgh. The celebration, or commemoration, if you will, is now spread over quite a time period. And there are a lot of events, and we urge people to pay attention to it each year to see what events they might like to attend so they can get a general picture. What we try to do is just get them a bird's eye view and a little bit of a unique bird's eye view of what's happening during this commemoration each time. We believe our ceremony is ready to begin.
Members of Fountain Brothers, Post 6019, Department of New York, our auxiliary sons, all American legions, the militia, all our beloved veterans and friends. We are gathered today for a grateful and patriotic duty to dedicate these colors, the emblem of the United States of America, and colors of not only our greatest ally, but friends, Great Britain. We are here today to dedicate the colors of this monument a perpetual memorial to our comrades who died for their country serving during the time of war. May we again dedicate our organizations and ourselves to the sacred ideals which are here represented, ever remembering that the American Legion, our auxiliary sons, and all veterans organizations find principles and services for God and country. This time I'd like to introduce the President of Post 1619 Auxiliary, Irene Rock.
Let us pray. Almighty God, judge over all our nations, we stand before you today as loyal citizens of our country, grateful for its splendid heritage. We ask thy blessing upon our great republic. May America ever remain free, mighty, and true to our ideals. Bless the President of the United States and all public servants, that they may walk in justice before thee, and that all their acts may redound to the greater welfare of our people. We pray for thy blessing upon our flag, the emblem of our republic. May it float forever over our free land. May our ancient watchword, "In God we trust," ever live. May the faith of our fathers guide, protect, and sustain our people. Finally, we remember and love before thee our departed heroes. May thy merciful blessing rest upon them and upon those for whom the war is not over. Teach us to honor them by ever cherishing the ideals for which they fought and died. Inspire us by their example to live, that they may die worthy of their sacrifice. We ask thy blessing upon this service. May it uplift us all to constant devotion to thy teachings and to the welfare of our country. Amen.
In memory of those veterans who have given their all to this country, as well as those who gave theirs for Great Britain, who have made the supreme sacrifice and have answered the call of the great commander of all divisions, we will stand in silence with our heads bowed. Detail. Out head. Up out. Face.
A special moment as several flags will be raised on the Crab Island flagpole as part of this ceremony. One of them was fairly typical of flags that were flown in the time period which encompassed the Battle of Plattsburgh in 1814.
And also would have been the flag that the Star Spangled Banner was written about.
It certainly would be over Fort McHenry with Francis Scott Key. And the British flag will be flying, and the POW MIA flag will be on the bottom, and that's being strung as we speak. Sounds like the voice of Cortland Wood behind us.
Sounds like he's singing on the ferry over there.
Yep.
name of South Brothers Post 1619, Park, New York, I dedicate these colors. May they both fly perpetually as the emblem of the cause which they fought and which we now gladly serve. Here, our flags at our country, state, within their folds is the freedom and fealty of our nation. I dedicate these colors to the purpose of our post, community, state, and nation. And with them I dedicate this memorial to the faithful service of our nation, our people, and our flag. Comrades, you will join me in saluting our colors. Preset! Horn! Our turn! Horn! Keep him up, pal. Hey! At your will. Fire at will.
Looks like Will's in trouble. They're going to fire at Will again.
I thought we were going to get a little bit of the wad coming right past us that came out of the cannon. There are still smoldering pieces of paper that are connected with the wad in the front of the cannon. Very impressive ceremony indeed. And if the spirits of those fallen comrades from the Battle of Plattsburgh and the War of 1812 are here, they're pleased and delighted with what's transpired here today. Get ready. Concussion does a number on your earlobe. If I hadn't been listening to loud music in my ears for all those years, I would have run into the woods, but so far so good. I got most of my bones and a lot of my skin left, so we're all right.
Looks like they're not giving up in that cannon either. There's going to be another one.
No, they want everybody to know. We planned for this event for a long time, and they're not going to let it end without...
I wouldn't be loading that darn thing standing in front of it. I'd be off to the side a bit.
I stood in front of it about waist high on the way over here and told them to pull, but I was really only kidding. It's a good cannon, and believe me, it works. I won't say I'm getting used to it.
Let's try to make our way to the other side of this cloud.
There's no question this is a significant patriotic event. And you would have to be pretty hard-hearted not to have your heart swell with pride. That made the CD jump, so you know how powerful that concussion is. These guys are doing that with great pleasure, too, you know that.
This is their day to shine.
This certainly is, and we love them, every one of them. The costumes are authentic and wonderful. People tuning up for a Battle of Plattsburgh weekend, and an extremely appreciative crowd here today. How could we not get the toast with John Rock? Of course, John would have to raise a toast to all the all the sailors who lost their lives in the Battle of Plattsburgh, and this is a significant event for him and for all of us gathered here today. Well, we left the best to last. A little chat with Roger Harwood, whose heart and soul have been into this for a long time, not only here but Valcour as well. What are your feelings right now, Raj?
It's an honor and it's a privilege to be part of this, Gordy. And it's a great day. It's all I can say.
It's a wonderful day for everybody. When John lifted the bottle and said a toast to the fallen sailors, I should have expected that would happen.
No, this is really important today to make an awareness of Crab Island, and people are here, Gordy. Probably more people than have been here since they dedicated this flagpole or the monument in 1903 and in 1908. This is a pretty historic day for Plattsburgh, and for the men that gave their lives. That's the reason these monuments are here.
Well, you said before the magic words, and those words were to create a recognition among people who've never been here or perhaps even never heard the name of Crab Island. And we hope that the throngs will come here and see just why it pleases us so much to be on this hallowed ground.
I had somebody tell me over at the monument this morning that you really don't have the feeling until you come ashore. And
how many years have you been saying that?
I said every time I go down that trail to the monument with a lawnmower, it strikes me, it hits me. And,
well, you know, as those guns were all firing and as that cannon was going off scarcely 25 feet from this microphone, which I was trying to protect along with my eardrums, I couldn't help but be moved in many ways, physically and emotionally, and I whispered into the camera, or at least it seemed like I did with all the sound, that if the spirit of those fallen comrades come back to visit this island once in a while, I know they're here in force today, and I can almost feel their collective smile as to what's transpired. And a lot of it is your fault. It's great.
I'll take the blame.
It's just great, isn't it?
I'm sure they heard us today. I'm sure they are a part of this.
Well, we've mentioned your dreams before.
You have?
Yeah, many times on this program. Most recently when we made the last trip here to erect the flagpole. But I want to express them again today. I want you to tell us what you would like to see here in Crab Island, let's say 5 or 10 years down the road.
Well, the list is long, Gordy. But one of the things, I guess the most important thing is happening here today. People are here, people have come, and they've come for a reason. I really believe, and some of those folks are here, I really believe the state's going to pick up the ball and really, really run with it now. I believe the powers that be want to be part of Crab Island. And I don't think I'm hallucinating when I say that.
It would be
talked
tragic
to
if they weren't.
It's really going to happen. We've talked about this before. It was fun to come here and just do my thing. This is fun too.
Yeah, and you have spent countless hours here cleaning up, getting ready for this day. Addie Shields, bless her heart, Clinton County historian, standing next to us before. She says, Gordy, we got to get our rakes together. We got to get out here. We got to clean this whole site up, make it look beautiful out here. It's been a volunteer effort right from the very beginning, and you were right in front of that volunteer line.
Most all of this, I cleared with a push mower and now with a riding mower. Actually, I'm just looking around, and where we're standing was poison ivy up to your waist a few weeks ago, and. But the area down where we unload, that's been mowed for a couple of years. There's a nice lawn there. This will all be lawn before long. And one of the things you find when you work here, you find evidence that this was a park. If we look at this land, there are no stones. Crab Island is a rocky island, but there are no stones. This was done once, and it makes it easy to do again. And And the evidence is here. You can see it just every place you look. The ice storm did a lot of damage here. It's been neglected since the 50s when the Air Force tried to do something here, but it's happening. It's really happening today.
Well, we're delighted to be a part of it all. We thank you very much for inviting us out here, and a special thanks to the gods that control your motor that ran all the way here and
we
will
got
run
here
all the way back.
We're hoping to get back safely, and it's just an honor to have you people here, to have the rest of the media here, and spread the word. And, it's been a lot of fun.
We're doing that here today. Thanks, Raj. Oh, the guys are coming off the pole, huh? We didn't see them going up. It's always easier coming down, isn't it, Calvin? Isn't that great?
It would take an act of Congress to get me down. I'd be hanging on.
You'd be up there for a long time. Like super glue, huh? These guys have been up and down poles lots of times before, and I'm sure they're not throwing safety to the wind, that's for sure. We're glad to see that many of our public officials were here today, including legislators from the Clinton County Legislature and others. And you can tell the people who really care. And as you said, the general public really wasn't invited out here today, but they can view the festivities and taste a little bit of the flavor of this occasion through Calvin's camera.
Channel 5 and Channel 3 were here, Press Republican was here, so there'll be plenty of coverage this time for this, unlike when we were here a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I would also like to take a moment, and this is something you and I have discussed, to thank all the men and women from Channel 22 who worked very hard to make a dent in the news business. And some of them are tremendous journalists, and they covered some beautiful stories. And those of you who are viewing this may have read the recent article in the paper that their news operation has to close down. And so that will mean those 25 people who were instrumental in trying to get that news operation off the ground will not be employed, at least in the same way they were before. And we admire anybody that adds a fresh and new perspective to the happenings here in the North Country. And so we wish them all the very best of luck. Among them are many of our friends. And we respect everything they do and thank them for their contribution in albeit a fairly short time. I'll tell you, it helps to be able to walk on water. It didn't take us long to get back to land, and here we are on another day. Hello there, young man. How are you doing? I love it. City Clerk Keith Hercolo. We're on Route 22, north of the city of Plattsburgh, not far from the old Clinton County home, on the scene of a skirmish during the Battle of Plattsburgh that actually occurred a few days before the actual battle, around the 5th day of September in the year 1814, around the Dominy farm. And a number of people are gathered here today to talk about that skirmish, which was planned by General McComb almost as a drill. He planned a number of skirmishes to mix the old soldiers who had been in the Revolutionary War and some of the old seasoned veterans from this area along the border with some of the new recruits to teach them how to be what he called the best soldiers in the country. And one of those skirmishes was right here at Culver or Culver's Hill, north of the city of Plattsburgh on Route 22 near Beekmantown. At the time, they were referred to as unimportant skirmishes, but history has proven that they were anything but, because Wool was here, Major John Wool was here with about 250 men. They set up a barricade. They slowed down the British troops. They were ultimately forced to retire, let us say, actually to retreat to Halsey's Corners, where they did it all over again. But it slowed down the attack. It gave information for the troops in the city of Plattsburgh so they knew what was coming and how to deal with it. Lieutenant Colonel Willington was killed here, along with Ensign Chapman. So Prevost lost some of his officers here, but there were a number of people killed here and at Halsey's Corners on both sides. So today there'll be some interesting speeches and a little ceremony, and by way of giving you something unique every year when we commemorate the Battle of Plattsburgh, we thought we'd stop at Culver's Hill, or Culver Hill in Beekmantown, to bring to you the festivities on this day in 2003. What a beautiful day. Bright sunshine, just enough of a breeze to keep it cool. Gary Van Coor, how are you?
Very good, thank you.
I want to know how this idea of coming up here this year was conceived.
Well, we heard that Joe Carter, who was a descendant of James Willington, who was killed here, was coming. And we thought, what an opportunity for her to actually come to the spot where the battle took place so that she would be able to lay a wreath at the monument, which, according to Addie Shields, our local historian, is the oldest monument in Clinton County.
Where is it?
It's up on the highway. Unfortunately, over the years, the highway has changed. I believe they probably dug down, so most people didn't even know it existed.
I had no idea.
Yeah, we cleared some of the brush away, so now people can at least see it. But it was the oldest one put in by Dr. David Kellogg in the Plattsburgh Institute in 1894.
He was, well, we've read so many of his accounts of what happened, and his are some of the accounts that helped to lead us to Pike's Cantonment and so many other things. He was so graphic in his descriptions of things, wasn't he?
Absolutely, he was. And thank goodness that he not only kept his own journal, but went around and took recollections of some of the people who lived during the time of the battle, including Henry Dominy and Nathaniel Culver. And this was the Culver farm, and this was the hill they went up, and this is where the first major stand was of the Battle of Plattsburgh. And Major Wool of the American forces and about 250 regulars and probably 30 to 40 militia tried to stop the British, and of course not with much success.
But they did delay them, and then they kind of retreated to Halsey's Corners and did it all over again.
Well, they did. I don't know how much delay it was, but they did at least let them know that the Americans were here. And Halsey's Corners was another very bloody scene. But this was the first major skirmish, and this is where Willington was killed, and that's why we thought it would be appropriate to have the two families, descendants of the Willingtons and descendants of the Dominys, and also we understand some of the Culver family is in the area, to have them come together in peace to recognize the sacrifices of their ancestors.
Well, it's the last battle we really had with the British back in the War of 1812.
Well, if we don't count the Battle of New Orleans, which was kind of after the war, but this was the big one, absolutely. And of course, the whole purpose of the weekend committee and the Battle of Plattsburgh Association is let people know how strategic and critical this battle was. Most people don't realize it.
We're recording this on September 12th, the day after the Battle of Plattsburgh Day, but a number of activities are planned for the entire weekend, and boy, the weatherman is really shining on us. You couldn't ask for anything better, Gary.
So far. We keep our fingers crossed every year. This engagement actually took place on September 6th as they were marching into Plattsburgh. So it took them a while with all those men and supplies to get into position. But
they didn't have Humvees back in those days.
No, they did not. And that's one of the reasons that the British and Chazy decided to take several roads because the highways at that time were just roads, and they weren't sturdy enough to hold all of the men, and then the supplies. They would start to wear down and get soggy. So they diverted into West Chazy, and one came down what they called the Beekmantown Road at that time, and the other went down what is now the Durand Road, and they converged. Where used to be Super 87 is now where the jail is.
It's amazing how names have changed. This place is variously called Culver Hill and Culver's Hill, and Beekmanstown, and the Beekman Road, and the Boynton Road, and but it helps to have an event like this because it brings it back into perspective, doesn't it?
It does, and I think people start to become aware of it, and then more people start coming up with information, and I think each time I turn around, I learn more and more about it, and so I think it's great because then you can start to pull your information together and find out what the people were like and what it was like that day when the British, with their red coats, stretched from here to the Canadian border.
Gary, it's fun to be a part of all this, and it's great to remember. Thank you for your contribution.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for being here. It's great to have you.
Glad to be here.
Thank you.
This is the monument which I have never seen before, in spite of the fact that I've traveled this road literally hundreds of times. Ceremonies will be held in the open field because it's more protected and a little bit safer. And then there'll be a dedication ceremony right here. Colonel Vincennes is standing in front of it right now. He's on the commemoration committee, and he'll give some a little bit of background on what happened here at Culver, or Culver's Hill, way back when, on the 6th day of September, 1814. Dennis Relation, the supervisor of the town of Beekmantown, will be here. There'll be comments by the Wellington and Dominey families, descendants of those who are actually on the scene of Culver's Hill. Then, of course, our beloved Addie Shields, Clinton County historian, will have her own remarks toward the end. They'll have a wreath-laying ceremony. There'll be taps. There will be some volleys fired into the trees here, and it'll be an interesting occasion, especially for those of us who thought we knew a little bit about the history of the Battle of Plattsburgh and the Battle of Lake Champlain. As it turns out, we learn something new every single year. So we're delighted to be here with the reenactors, with some of the bloodline descendants of those who were involved in this so-called skirmish way back when, during the Battle of Plattsburgh time period in September of 1814. This is a monument that's in very, very good shape, and it says Culver Hill, September 6, 1814. Near this spot fell Corporal Stephen Patridge of the Essex County, New York State Militia. Also, Brevet Lieutenant Colonel James Wellington, as we've said. Ensign John Chapman of the 3rd Foot British Army. And this, as we know, was erected by the Plattsburgh Institute and Dr. Kellogg in 1894. And I'm embarrassed that I hadn't seen it before, but I'm very, very impressed and moved by the fact that we were invited here to cover this ceremony today in 2003.
Okay. Do you know Dennis Relation? Dennis Relation. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Are you going to say a few words?
Dennis Relation, how are you today?
Very good, Gordy. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. What a silly question. How can you help but have a great day?
I know. What a
beautiful
day.
Weather, nice people.
It's gorgeous.
Isn't it neat to have a ceremony like this in your town?
Yes, it is. And we had a fabulous turnout. I knew we'd have quite a few people, but not as many as what we actually had. It was a great turnout for today's ceremony.
You think you know a little bit about the Battle of Plattsburgh after we've covered it in one way or the other for years. But until this year, I never knew that monument was up there in the brush.
Well, to be honest with you, Gordy, until Mr. Vancour last year, when they had the parade ceremony in Plattsburgh, he asked the town to get involved in the parade with possibly a float. And he also mentioned the history of Culver Hill and Beekmantown. And I, myself, have lived here for over 40 years and actually never knew the monument was there myself. It was kind of just tucked in amongst the trees.
It's almost obscured because I've driven past here and never seen it.
Exactly. So Gary got a bunch of volunteers together, mainly from the Lions Club and myself, and we cleared it out so people can actually see the monument when they're driving through now. And we've had a lot of positive comments about, they thought it was a new monument. They hadn't realized that it was actually here since 1894.
Well, it looks new. Must have been cleaned up a lot.
Well,
it hadn't been damaged too much by the looks of it.
Well, I believe the type of granite that it's made out of is very durable, and it's very hard rock, so it'll endure hundreds of years, that's for sure.
You know, it's fairly typical of what we just did yesterday in real time on the 11th day of September, covering the events on Crab Island.
Right.
How they've taken that monument out of obscurity so people riding by can see it. And also the re-erecting the flagpole is pretty neat. So I think it's a good thing that we're getting these good monuments out of the mothballs, so to speak, and creating a new appreciation for what happened all those years ago.
Well, it's not only inviting other tourists to the Plattsburgh area to know our history, it's actually nice to see the younger people and the older people who didn't know the history of Plattsburgh. I honestly did not know the history quite like I do today. Because of people like Gary Vancour and James Garden, one of our councilmen, and Addie Shields, historian. She actually brought us to light about the history of Beekmantown, and it is quite interesting. The whole area has a lot of history behind it. If you really want to pay attention and listen, it's very interesting.
And wasn't it great today to have direct descendants here who were actually on the scene that day on the 6th day of September, 1814.
That was fabulous. I was amazed to hear that some of the people were still in the area, and it was very nice. I thought it was great to have people from the United Kingdom come to honor their descendants. Mr. Wellington, who was actually killed in the battle. That was fabulous for them to be here today.
Well, Dennis, thank you very much for doing what you do in politics in this area and giving back as we all try to do for what this area has done for us. This is the kind of day that makes it all worthwhile, doesn't it?
Yes, it is. And I thank you very much, Gordy, for being here, and thank you all for being here.
Beekman Town Supervisor Dennis Relation. Have a great day, Dennis.
You too, Gordy.
The sun is still shining, the brisk breeze is still blowing. Joe Carter, how are you?
Very well indeed, and thoroughly enjoying the beautiful weather and the wonderful hospitality of Plattsburgh.
We are so delighted that you chose to come here and join us today. And your husband got a chance to give his well-chosen words. Now it's your opportunity to talk to the people of the North Country. When did you come over?
We arrived on Wednesday evening in Montreal, and I think either Tuesday evening, and then drove down on Wednesday morning.
Is this your first visit to Plattsburgh?
No, we came last year, and they said, "What a pity you're not here next weekend, because that's the commemorative weekend." And we said we didn't know about it, so we've come back to make sure we were here for the right weekend.
Were you always aware of your connection with this place, or is that something that you learned recently?
Only by doing the family history, and then in conjunction with military records have we found out as much as we know so far of James Wellington's involvement. And I'm still going through military records in London of the various activities that the regiment got up to, and his personal involvement, and where he was on the muster days. Every 25th of the month you were recorded by the army as to where you were, and it's then it'll be recorded as to where he was on that particular day.
You've been very serious about this genealogy thing, haven't
absolutely,
you?
Yes.
Have you done it for many years?
No. We started about 30 years ago, but of course when you're working you don't have the same amount of time. But now that we're retired, and what's so marvellous, it takes us all over the world. And we have been to Spain and Portugal, and are going again next year to follow the regiment in the battles that they participated in Portugal. And
you have uncovered so much delightful information. I was very impressed. Roy's your husband, right?
Yes.
I was very impressed by the speech that he made. That was tremendous.
Well, he feels he has a personal involvement because the 3rd Regiment of Foot, when they gave them county associations, is the East Kent Regiment, and he is a man of Kent.
Oh,
so he
wonderful.
feels it's his regiment too.
It's almost an obligation and a duty, isn't it?
Absolutely. And we went 2 years ago, we went with the regiment to Spain and to Portugal, and we followed their activities, and that was a marvellous experience to go with the regiment.
How could it not be? To actually relive your history.
Indeed, yes. And it's been marvellous to come here because you all know so much about what happened here. And it's not a war that is covered much in Britain, A, because we lost, but B, I think it was because the nearer at home was the Napoleonic Wars, and that was a little bit too close for comfort.
Well, there are a lot of reasons why it's important to people in this area, and today I think it was demonstrated. We all know about the amazing, wonderful relationship between your country and our country down through the years since
there should never be any discord between the two nations because we all come from the same stock, don't we?
Of course we do. I don't have that beautiful accent that you have, and I never will, but I love it, and I hope you enjoy your stay.
We will indeed. We've thoroughly enjoyed coming back, and it's been terrific.
Joe Carter, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
That's the way it is on Culver Hill, or Culver's Hill, on this day in September 2003, recalling another day on September 6th in 1814. We hope you've enjoyed this part of our presentation When you next see us, we should be very close to the steps of Plattsburgh City Hall and the Battle of Plattsburgh, the Battle of Lake Champlain parade. It's nice to see downtown Plattsburgh